hi to all you Zoom people because I'm not going to be looking at you because it confused me. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right, my name is Carrie Van Heulen, and I'm here from 840 Inspections. We are a home inspection company here in Murfreesboro. We have an inspector in Nashville, 2 in Murfreesboro. We used to have one in Columbia, but now we go all over. We go anywhere in the state of Tennessee. Full disclosure about me, I got back from Puerto Rico on a cruise yesterday, and I'm still going like this. And I'm not kidding. In my sleep, I go like this. So if I trip or anything, please forgive me. So today I'm going to talk about foundations and crawl spaces. And I've had extensive conversations with my husband about this because it's not my expertise, but I know a lot about it. So this is from our collaboration. And first of all, to talk about the 3 types of foundations that are most common here in Tennessee, pure construction, which doesn't happen a lot, slabs and crawl spaces. This is an example of a pure construction. Just kind of a funny one. But yeah, it's a pure construction. There's a real example that we did an inspection one on the next slide. So this is one that we did probably 2 weeks ago. So pure constructions, they're more prevalent around hilly areas or lakes, obviously hilly areas because you can use that space without having to, have anything on a slant. It can be a full pier, which is pretty rare, especially around here. It's more like, Southern California, shorelines and things like that. Most often partial piers along with crawls or slabs. So like this one has, I can't tell if that's a crawl space or a slab from right here. But that is definitely that partial. But sometimes you can't really tell much what's going on under there. For wood members of the construction, we look for signs of wood destroying organisms, weather or moisture damage. So, we call WDOs, I'm sure you guys know that, because we don't want to say that they're termites or whatever. It could be fungal growth or micro. And we also look for signs of shifting and movement. And you can't really see it, but you're going to see it in the next slide. There's definitely some movement in here, and there's a zigzag going down on the brick. Okay, so I'm taking a break from that, and I'm just saying we're generalists. You probably heard this before. We're not specialists in foundations. We're not specialists in HVAC. We're not specialists in roofing. We're generalists like you would be a family doctor versus a specialist. My husband's going to a family doctor today because he has severe ear infections, and they're going to probably say he needs to go to a specialist so they can really use the specific tools that they use on an everyday basis. They're licensed, insured in that sort of field. So just kind of talk about that a little bit. So there's significant settling here, and we're going to refer them to a specialist that does only this for a living. We can't tell you if it's going to be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years that you're going to start having some real problems inside. But probably we could get a better idea of that when we get inside. But just as a general rule, and we can't tell you how much it's going to cost to repair it. So in our report, it's going to be noted as a defect, and we're going to ask for further review if necessary by a structural engineer. Any questions about that? Because that comes up a lot. Like people don't understand why we refer so many things to a specialist, but that's kind of a general synopsis of why we do that. Slab foundations are wonderful.
We love slabs.
We love slabs. I mean, who doesn't love a slab? You don't love a slab?
No.
Why not?
Several reasons. Mainly, they suck to walk on.
Oh.
I like crawl spaces better. It's easier to walk on the wood than it is concrete.
Oh.
But these are way more efficient.
Yeah.
I will agree with that. But
yeah.
I think it's walking.
It's really maintenance free. Like when you have a crawl space, obviously there's maintenance that goes with it. It's simple construction, and once you have a slab, other than possible cracking, which doesn't happen significantly that often, it's, other than your knees, it's a beautiful thing. It's more resistant to cracking. Let me read this over again. More resistant to cracking, like some overtime right on the sill concern. Okay, I don't really understand that sentence. It will likely crack a little bit here and there. Not at first, it's going to take maybe a year or 2. People ask me all the time if they should test for radon with slabs. And I usually kind of say, you're probably safe to get an Amazon or not, get something on Amazon or get something at Lowe's, a quick radon test. Because the first year is probably not going to B, but I stopped saying that after we had one that came up positive. So I don't say anything like that anymore. Although if you did do the Amazon test you can get on Amazon, you would have found out you had an issue. But this was pretty high. It was like 10. And I was very surprised that a brand new construction that hardly was completed yet had radon problems already. And moisture concerns are very minimal versus a crawl space. And I know we're going to talk about that at length. So the only two items of concern in general that aren't very frequent is there might be loose soil under the foundation that wasn't compacted well. So just maybe not the best construction, or just the paved slab loses moisture over time and starts cracking. And the ways you would identify this would be if you're, you can't really tell much on carpet unless it's really buckling a lot, but on laminated floors, you'll see a little bit of a shift. Same thing for wood flooring. We had an agent that we used that she had this in her home, and they had to do some major things about it, but yeah, it does happen. We also look for any cracks on the outside, you know, as we're doing a visual inspection of the exterior. So we'll just be looking through the outside of it as well. And as far as people who are thinking about maybe it's an older home and they want to add on to it, or they want to refinish it somehow, it's not usually that big of a deal. You can still, you know, do things. That's always my thing. Well, how are they going to do that on slabs? You know, it's a piece of concrete. Well, they just, you know, they can add a crawl space to it, or they can add another slab, or whatever they need to do to take care of that. So that is not a huge deal. Crawl spaces. So yeah, they're very prevalent here in Tennessee because of all the blasting and the limestone. I'm from Michigan. We don't really have crawl spaces in Michigan. We have Michigan basements. Have you ever heard of that? It's like a dungeon. They're gross. You don't want to go down there. People used to store their canned goods and stuff down there. That's really all you can do because they're basically mud, and you know they're not part of the house. The stuff doesn't filter into the house somehow, but it's really nasty. But they're very rare. Basements are very rare here in Michigan, and a lot of the northern places. There's lots of basements, and that's a really good scenario. Get the extra space, and then you don't have a crawl space. Most crawl spaces have high humidity levels, and that's one of the reasons why they can become very problematic. The main cause of moisture is exposed soil. So crawl spaces should have 100% of the floor covered. Some have none of it covered. It just depends on when the house was built. A lot of the builders will have code that says it only needs to be 80% covered. We don't go by code. We go by the Tennessee Building Standards of Practice. So we just, we're not going to say it's a defect if it's not covered, but we always recommend it be 100% covered because usually that's where the problems come in. Soil has water that brings up humidity, and humidity causes fungus and mold and air quality problems. And we'll report it as microbial debris if we see it or if we smell it or anything like that. But then I'll talk a little bit about air quality. So air quality is usually caused by standing water or exposed soil. Microbial debris, is usually caused by standing water, exposed soil. Mold spores can be harmful. They also can be not harmful. So this is an air quality test, and this is a fine air quality test. But there's several kinds of mold in the home. This is a control that we take from outside, and this is one sample that we take from inside from one side of the house or the first floor, and then another sample we take from the other side of the house. Now, if they're having a problem, kind of getting sidetracked here, but if they are having a problem, then we'll say, where's your problem area? We don't really want to test inside a bathroom because that's where there might be like surface mold, and we don't really count that as air quality. We want it to be outside where it's getting into the home. You're not spending a lifetime in the bathroom. You're just in there for a few minutes. So the best way to test it is by doing like kind of one side of the house or the other, top floor, bottom floor. We always test 3 samples. It's just the best. You can test more samples if you want. You could do swab tests, add those to it. But this is just kind of a little introduction. It says all spores found in indoor air quality or indoor air are also normally found in outdoor air because most organic or live material in the soil are from dead or decaying plants. Therefore, it's not unusual to find mold spores in indoor air because they're always coming and going. So you're going to have mold in the house. You might bring it in on your shoes. You might just have your windows open. Whatever the case, you do have mold in your house. I have mold in my house. Kind of like radon. Everybody's got radon in their house. I don't think we've ever had a test that is 0.0 picocuries. There's always something in there.
That you sit in the bathroom for moisture, not odor, so it only sucks the moisture out of the bathroom.
I mean, that's really what that bathroom vent is for. Because if you don't, I have a friend who has a beautiful, $1 million house, and she's got mold on her bathroom ceiling because she never uses a vent. And it's just moisture gets in there, and it happens to be in a water closet because the moisture gets in there, and then you close that door, and then that water has to get in there and start doing its thing.
I've seen a lot of bathroom vents that are DIYs that vent just into the attic.
Oh, that's bad.
So they're not realizing they're just putting all the moisture in the attic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's got to go out of the house.
Yeah. Exactly.
They need to put it into the crawl space. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Exactly. So does anybody have any questions about air quality testing in general? Have you ever had an air quality test done? Do you know why you would have it done? Do you have any clients that are concerned about that? Usually it's kind of a smell. People go in a room and it kind of smells kind of funny. And so that's one of the reasons why people get it tested. If they have allergies and that is present, that smell, then they definitely want to get it tested because that's a concern. If it's little kids, they have told you I can't speak today. Compromised immune systems. That would be another thing.
Do you guys do the testing?
Mm-hmm.
What is the rough ballpark for cost of those tests?
It's $375. We take 3 samples, we send them into a lab, overnight it to a lab in Tampa, and they get results back to us the next day. So it's an expensive test to do, but it's expensive for us to do too. We overnight it, and we pay for each sample, we pay for each cassette, and we pay for those labels. So yeah, and that can be done anytime. We do it as a standalone too. Water in the crawl. Okay. So I've had people agents say, it's weird. My client saw water in the crawl space and they didn't want this house. Well, I mean, obviously anything can be fixed. And that's kind of our stance on our inspections. We make aware, but don't scare. Our thing is, anything can be fixed. Anything can be negotiated. Just because there's water in the crawl space doesn't mean it's the end of the world, but it does need to be addressed. Either, it needs to have a vapor barrier all the way around it. It might have vents that we'll talk about a little bit later that is just bringing a lot of moisture in there and it doesn't have anywhere to go. It might need a dehumidifier. It could be a real simple solution, but it could be a big solution. It could need to be totally encapsulated or, things like that. So those are $200 to $10,000 things, but it just really depends on the severity of the situation.
Now, I've heard people say, I've heard people say they have to put pumps in their crawl spaces. Is that when it's the water's a little more of a continuous?
Yeah, it could be the slope of the foundation. Okay. It could be something like that. It could be my son-in-law has a problem like this, and they have a French drain, and they just keep having these problems, and they have a sump pump. So I mean, I guess some homes are just more problematic than others, but this one is just driving everybody crazy. But a sump pump is definitely a solution, and it's not.
That was going to be a question I tell you. Is that something that y'all recommend in your inspection report if you see a problem, or do you leave it to the foundation specialist to answer that? Because the sump pump on our end, if I get an inspection report with a sump pump in it, it's like, oh boy, nuclear bomb 911.
Okay. So this is for you. This is a question that I'm going to bring back my husband. He's going to answer you specifically. I'm going to do a drawing at the end of this for you to ask any question you want. And give it back to me, and he will answer it. It could be anything you want. It could be, why do you do this? That doesn't make sense to me, or whatever. And then for you all, it's just, you can't see it, it's backwards. Name, email, and your question. If you want to email that to us, we'll answer that as well. Email is 840inspect@gmail.com, but I'll just collect yours. Okay, and speaking of crawl spaces, let's see, it's out. A little flashlight for you. It's never a bad idea to peek into the crawl space and also know how the crawl space has access, because if there's a big padlock on it, you kind of want to know that, because then you need to make sure that we have access to that. Flashlight, but you never know. If your mailbox. Oh, you're all good. Yeah. Okay.
Good little 840 inspection flashlight.
840 inspection. Yeah. So we're always going to write up standing water, and then people will say, well, we just had a bunch of rain. It's not gonna be like that all the time. I'm like, well, my husband says this all the time. As long as it never rains again, it's fine. But it's gonna rain again. So there's gonna be standing water in there. And that might be the sump pump situation. If it only does it when it rains and you've already got everything else under control, then that might be a sump pump thing. But he's gonna answer you on that one.
I don't blame you. This is, it's probably not, it's probably best y'all refer it out, which is probably what he does. That's what a lot of inspectors do. I've only had one where they're like, yeah, this house needs a sump pump, so.
Well, I mean, it is a specific question, and
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've had him say it just needs a sump pump.
Yeah.
I've heard him say it, so it could be that question.
I like when inspectors don't try to refer it out to the specialists. Some things just.
It just depends on the situation. There's probably 4 or 5 different, maybe there's many different situations where he would either say, it's not a bad thing, here's what you need.
It's common in Tennessee to have.
And we say consult a specialist a lot, but we could tell you it probably just needs this and this, because if we don't say that, someone will sue us.
Saying I'll refer a specialist is our entire job as real estate agents.
Yes.
But if you give my husband a call and he says, we have to say that, but if he says we really just need a sump pump, call a plumber, almost do sump pumps, call a plumber and get a quote on a sump pump. And we also have something called a repair pricer. Now I'll talk about it a little bit at the end, but our repair pricer prices out everything on the home inspection report line by line. So this situation we can give you a number for that. This is something that's free and available to you. It comes to you. It doesn't come to your client because your client doesn't necessarily need all of that information. It will give you every little thing that's wrong with the house and how much it costs. They don't really need that because some of those are maintenance things. Some of those are like changing an outlet, whatever. Really simple things to do. But for you, it's a tool that you can use to fund things or to just kind of prioritize. What are the big things? What are the little things? So, all right. So one thing you wanted to know, sometimes we see water around the footers and it may not be the same issue. It may be a downspout gutter situation, or, maybe it needs a French drain or something, the water coming from the outside that's getting in there, but it's not really a problem. It's not really like all over the crawl space. It doesn't look that bad, but we've gone in and there's just dripping water in there, So just kind of a note on that.
You never know what you're going to see in the crawl space.
Yeah. See, now your crawl spaces.
I do like my crawl spaces, and the only reason is the access to like the plumbing, the electric, and the ductwork. That's really my only get up with slabs is that you got to pay $40.
Yeah.
That's really my only get up.
Do you look under there as real estate agents? I don't know if you do know. Can I have a peek under there?
We refer a specialist.
But I mean, like, don't you want to know?
No, absolutely not. Because as soon as we see, we have to disclose. We're not specialists in that, so we might think something's wrong when something's not wrong, or we might think something's fine when something's not fine.
I mean, we've also heard issues with crawl spaces. Like we know a guy he was a contractor, got electrocuted under somebody's crawl space. We've seen snakes under crawl spaces. Like there's so many dangers that if you don't know what you're doing or looking for, you could actually hurt yourself.
Yeah, I almost got Manchester like 3 years ago. There was a possum that had eaten its way into the ductwork, and that thing was not happy. Not happy at all.
Yeah, we've seen a few things. For sure. I had a picture that someone just sent the other day with snake skin at the entry of a crawl space. Yeah. It's not a good sign.
I don't know the attics either. Like no attics and crawl spaces, I'm out. I'll let the inspector get in there. That's okay.
That's fair. That's fair. I didn't really know that.
The snake is the main reason.
Even in attics?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was Samantha Cunningham still was actually had like 3 or 4 snakes in the attic.
I always test the ladder for my clients before they go up in the attic. Like I'll get to that ladder and be like, all right, looks like it's not gonna fall.
Yeah, because some of them are really pretty shaky. Yeah. All right, downspouts, fence, and gutters. So downspouts obviously go water away from the house, and a lot of homes. That's probably one of our most common write-ups that we see in a lot of houses. These are ugly, but they do the job. And that's just a picture that I found. But when we bought our house 4 or 5 years ago, we're in a different house now, but it was a new build, and we said, we want you to put it under the ground and have it come out over there. And the builder's like, that's not necessary. We're not going to do that. And I'm like, going to do it. And it just makes a huge difference to have to direct that water where it can't be harmful to your house. And even if it is this, that's doing its job, but the prettier ways to do it underground.
Well, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's that done. Obviously, Leads and gutters can cause a lot of issues, so that's another thing to look for. Now just a little bit of discussion about vents or no vents. So we're in a very humid state. Vents, you said vents are code. You'll see vents in all new constructions with crawl spaces. Some engineers say that's let in humidity, and they don't like it. They say that's why it's getting moist in there. So vents are not a problem in unwooded lots and with lots of air. Lots with a lot of airflow. So if you're in a heavily wooded area, then that's going to have more humidity. So if you have a vents, it just might be a good idea to put in a dehumidifier, and that might be a simple cause for if there was moisture in the crawl space and there were vents and nothing else looks wrong, but there's a little moisture in there. Maybe it's dripping down the HVAC vents and things like that. That's probably what that situation is. It's just humidity in there because of the vents. Question about that? Encapsulation or dehumidifier. I don't know why I wrote that. That would be another, like I said, encapsulation or dehumidifier. If there's vents in there and it's causing a more severe problem, then you might need to do an encapsulation. Okay. Yeah, so we get a lot of questions about foundations versus a structural engineer. If we recommend a structural engineer, it's probably a more serious problem or potentially a more serious problem because we don't know. But, a structural engineer is going to cost the client. That's okay. It's going to cost the client $500. Think it's coming. TFS or AFS or any of those TSS.
Is that a business? Jim Bruno?
I don't know. I put TSS and I'm like, I don't know, Tennessee Structural Services. There's like so many of them and they all have acronyms, so I just put that on.
So, yeah.
But they're not the same as a structural engineer. They're like foundation specialists, so they can answer the questions about the water and things like that. But they do tend to have a quota and be a little more aggressive about telling you what would be the best case scenario. And so you just got to keep that in mind. And they usually come out for free, so that's good. But you just got to keep that in mind. If you have a good person that you have used before that you trust, keep that name because they're more likely to get you in and they're more likely to be honest with you. Not that they're dishonest, it's just, you know how it is. We've had people come in after us and say it needs all this stuff and we're like, this need that, Structural engineer, we do have a couple really good people for that if you ever need anybody, let me know. Rex over pencil will be recommended to see a specialist. So that's always a good rule of thumb. The pencil can fit in there. And you have to move it. Good to see a specialist. Okay, so some of our limitations. This is just kind of like just to insert this in there. We can't do anything destructive. So there might be insulation and there might be some rotted wood above that insulation. Above that rotted wood is a subfloor and then a floor. They do construction and then they see that's all rotted. You couldn't see that because you can't pull down the insulation. You can't dig into the floor. We can't, poke pencils into the floor, see if it's rotted. So just some of those things that you think, well, how come they didn't see this? Well, that's why, because we can't do anything destructive. We can't, you have a little scenario about this. I'll talk about it in a minute, but we have a limited time to inspect. So we have 3 to 4 hours. And believe me, sellers are calling us if there's a seller involved saying, when can we go back in our home? And when are they going to leave? That we can't just be there all day. And plus we do 2 inspections a day. Start one at 8 o'clock and start one at 1 o'clock. So that gives us time in between inspections to get to the next place and traffic and all of that good stuff. Eating, it's important. So that's part of it. And some things are just beyond our scope. We go by Tennessee standards of practice, like I mentioned. You can find that on our website. If you haven't looked at it, it's a good thing to look at. It's a lot of words. So be prepared for some boring reading. But there's a lot of things that's what we go by. We don't do the things that they say we shouldn't do, and we do the things that they say we need to do. So that's just the.
Yeah, you can't go the whole the whole wall.
Yeah. I might say this somewhere else, but we can't move things. Oh, we can't move things. Yeah, so like there's some hoarder houses that we can't move all those things. Even underneath sinks, we'll just say it couldn't fully be inspected because there's mounds and mounds of products under there. We're not going to take all that stuff out. Now we're going to look and tell you if it's the wrong kind of pipes and if we see any water or if we see mouse turds or whatever. We're going to tell you what we can see, but it's a visual inspection. We're not taking all that stuff out of there, and
y'all aren't allowed to touch personal property too, correct? Like if there's like a couch in the way of a wall or something.
right.
Like
Well, it's more liability than scratch the floor.
Gotcha.
Touch the couch. We got grease on our hands.
Yeah.
Just anything like that. Now, if there's a rug and it looks like it was properly placed, then we'll like lift that rug up and say, let's just make sure that floor doesn't have a hole in it or whatever, But yeah, and we take hundreds of pictures at a home inspection that you don't see. We take all these backup pictures, the walls, the ceilings, everything we can possibly think of that someone might come back and question later. We've had people say, you didn't see this countertop. Well, the pictures are, there's like microwaves and all these appliances on the countertop, like over appliance countertop. And, pictures and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it, So like I said, we have 3 to 4 hours to do an inspection, but for instance, an HVAC expert, which we do have that available for people to hire an HVAC expert. So they can come and if you're questioning whether the HVAC is, it's maybe like 8 to 15 years old, and your client doesn't want to worry about that expense, then you can have an HVAC expert come out and say, yeah, it's good, or no, it needs this, and they can give you a price. So they can focus on that one thing that he's licensed and insured in. He can open up the unit and get inside it, take pictures, look at things that we can't look at, like you can see that there's rust in there or whatever. He can tell the amount of Freon it has inside it, and if it can be replaced, because some of that stuff is not available anymore. So we can't do all that. So if they're concerned about that, it's a good idea to get that. You can get your own, obviously. Also, if he's in a crawl space, he can move into the venting areas and get into lower spaces. So we had this come up where they said, well, why didn't you see that back there in a crawl space? Well, we can't fit back there, and we can't move that venting. So there's, the big vents, and we can't move them. He knows how to do it. He knows, like, if he breaks it, it's real easy for him to fix. For us, it's not. So we don't move that kind of thing. Yeah, so that was one thing to think about. Yeah, always if you have any questions why we didn't include something, we're happy to answer any questions like that and explain why we couldn't. Okay, how many am I getting towards the end? Okay, so services that we offer: radon testing, termite clearance slider, water quality testing, full thermal imaging, air quality testing that we already talked about, a professional pool inspection or pond, or also there's leak detection on that. If they're getting an in-ground pool, I don't know if you guys had much experience with the pools and stuff like that, but if they have an in-ground pool, the only way to tell if it's leaking is through this patented leak inspection that they do, or by just waiting to see how fast it evaporates. So that's probably not going to help. HVAC inspections, roof inspections, sewer scope, we do outsource that to another inspector friend of ours. And then myself or Kelly or admin will coordinate septic for you, because it's, we've got a huge list of different counties and different who we like to work with, how much they cost generally, because they're all different. All the counties are different. Like, William County is really expensive, but some of them are really expensive. Some of them are more moderately priced. And what makes us different? Okay. This is a superimposed picture of Kelly. She couldn't make it that day, so I hope it doesn't show too much, but I think she did a good job. So we do free video presentations. So if the client can't be there, we'll do a video presentation. I'm not sure what your stance is on being at the home inspection or being in the presentation or whatever, but if they're not at the home inspection, kind of frees you up not to go, because you're both going to get that presentation. And if I know some agents say they don't want to see the home inspection report. We can always see if you viewed it or not. We can see when you viewed it. We can see when you got it, when you viewed it, same client. So if you don't want to view the home inspection, you don't want to have that, I don't know if I call it liability, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like some brokerages don't want them to know, because if you sold that house later, you have to disclose all that stuff. And so some are real picky about that. And they told us, we don't want you to send that to us. We can't not send it to you, but you don't have to view it, and we can tell if you viewed it.
Yeah, and that's an important note for inspections. Is I've heard a story before where an agent, even though it was emailed to them and they just forwarded it, they were like, I didn't look at it, so I don't know. legally they consider if it hits your inbox, that's due notice and you've seen it.
Yep.
Even if you don't open the attachment, it's still you should have viewed
Received
it.
Yeah. And I think it's a subjective stance on whether or not the agent wants to view it or not. There's a lot of liability, and the rules that we have as agents is that if we see something, we must disclose it. Even a cracked switch plate, like, hey, the switch plate in the front right bedroom is cracked. So, I mean, for me, send it to me. I want to see what's wrong with it, especially if I have to sell it later, because we need to disclose if you haven't fixed anything. Because a lot of people want their honey-do list. So, like, hey, here's some items that you need to pay attention to. First, some agents are like,
But why do you have to disclose it? They have the home inspection report. Like it's already been disclosed to them.
that we have.
Well, and it's got to be disclosing material defects that could affect the value.
Yep.
So if it's like a light bulb's burnt out, I don't have to all of a sudden disclose this. It's major items.
But yeah, like if there's major cracking in the foundation, that would be something that would definitely need to be disclosed, especially if the current buyer backs away because of that.
Right.
And it has to be relisted.
That our job's to help advise too. And you have some clients that I can tell them, hey, you got foundation issues, leak, like massive leaks, and they're like, I want granite countertops and a nice backsplash.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a subjective matter. I can see why some people don't want it. I want to see what it does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But that video presentation, people love that. If you've got out-of-town clients, people from California buying houses here, they love that. And it's really a simple thing for us, and it's really beneficial to us because the inspector can kind of time when he wants to do the presentation. He doesn't necessarily have to do it. When we first started off, we would wait for clients to call us back 5, 6, 7, 8 at night. We're like, you can't plan anything because you're just waiting for that. So we started doing this for a couple of reasons. That's one of them. And they love it because it's just right available to them. As long as the inspection's paid, they get that. If it's not paid yet, they don't get anything. Because we don't require them to pay in advance, but if it's not paid, we're not going to have a conversation with them, even at the presentation, not paid, because still have one out there that's not paid because one of the inspectors forgot. So, all right, we already talked about the repair pricer, and if you want that, you are going to get everything on the house. So you're going to get every line item line by line. So if you're worried about that, don't order it. But if it's a house that, let's say if it's a house that you're trying to kind of steer them away from, get it. Show it to them. I mean, because you might worry about, like, sometimes we worry about what might come later if they buy this house. They're going to come after you for something, even though you've done everything right and told them everything. It happens. So we do free infrared thermal imaging on all new constructions, and we've found so many things. Just a picture, there's a picture on our website, I think, of a washer and dryer, and there's just a big blue spot behind it. It's just a hookup. So something happened back there, and we don't know if it's active. I think we measured it and didn't know if it was active. I didn't think it was wet, but it's behind. It's behind the washer and dryer. It's behind it. Could be behind the insulation. It's behind the drywall. So they have to look into that and figure it out. And they could do it later. They could find out that it leaked on their 1-year warranty inspection or 1-year warranty. They could have the builder go fix that. But who wants to live with that for a year, or who wants to 6 months down the road have to pull all your washers and dryers out and everything and have them all fix that then. We offer 90-day structural mechanical warranty. So that just means if they move in and their washer and dryer doesn't work, or not washer and dryer, sorry, their oven doesn't work. It worked when we were there, doesn't work now. So we will cover that. If something happened that is questionable, we'll cover that. We have a lot of integrity. We want people to have the experience that we would want to have. So we're not going to give away the farm and have just fix something everybody wants fixed because if it was on the report, we're not going to fix it. But if it wasn't, and if it was something that was on the report and was broken when we're not there, then we'll fix that or replace it. And we've done it several times. We have over 475 5-star reviews. A lot of reviews. I couldn't make them up. They're narratives. They're really good. If you question us, just look at those reviews. We get them weekly, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, such a good review. Couldn't write it if I wanted to. We have a 5 out of 5 A+ BBB rating, and we're launching a sister company this year doing commercial inspections. We do it under 840 inspections currently, but it's more like smaller, like retail spaces or small apartment jobs, like 20 units or less. But we have a commercial division as well that we can do giant warehouses and things like that. Any other questions? Lost somebody. I lost the question guy.
That's it.
Anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on
Sometimes
Zoom?
they type it out. You may need to check chat.
Nothing on chat for now. Okay.
Okay, so anybody who turns in these questions, I'm going to give a $20 to $10 Amazon gift card and then a $5 Starbucks. So we will answer your question and I'll do like a drawing for whoever turns them in. I also have business cards for everybody and then a $40 off coupon if you've never used us before. But I don't think you use that. If you have an inspection that's not super expensive, don't use it on that one. Hold it because sometimes you get. Oh, I'm sorry. If you get older pricing, older homes.
And then anybody on Zoom, we will email you guys what you need for the question, and then just respond back to us, and we can get those sent in on your behalf with your contact information.
It's on the back of my business card too. Most of the things are as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Here's the contact information, everybody. Oh, let me zoom out. There we go.
And we'll email this too.
Yep, we'll email it too.
Should we use the extra one of these?
Yeah, we
Perfect.